Live from Sin City, it's the Socks and Pinstripes Podcast. And now, here's the star of the show, Diet Dr. Griffin!
This is Diet Dr. Griffin back with another episode of the Socks and Pinstripes Podcast. There was no episode last week. I was a little indisposed. I had a trip out of town and family around, and it was just very difficult to get space to do a recording. I was also going somewhere where internet was very spotty, being up in the mountains and everything. Beautiful, beautiful area, but not so much for the internet side of things. But this week, I've got a guest, one of my good buddies from the Fantasy League, Shane, is coming on to talk about baseball and stuff with us. Say hello, Shane.
Hello.
It's nice having you aboard this week.
Oh yeah, thanks for having me. Really appreciate it. So
You're welcome. First time Shane and I played each other in fantasy. He was taking over for a team from another manager, and I beat him 20-0. And I thought, man, I had just crushed this guy's spirit. He never came. He never was going to want to play again and everything. And then this year, he comes out and he beats me in this past year, he comes out and beats me for the championship, basically. So I'm very happy that he's come a long way from that first initial drubbing and now is drubbing me around. So.
yeah, it's hard when most of your players are Angels players and they
Yeah,
haven't
yeah.
been
I mean,
good
like,
in
like
a
I said, he was
while.
he was taking over a team. He didn't get to draft that team, and unfortunately, that was a bit of his previous manager didn't do him any favors. Let's just say that.
Yeah, I think I wound up holding on to Taylor Ward for most of the year that year.
I
Jimmy
think I
Butler.
had Taylor Ward, and then I cut Taylor Ward because he was like useless after he crashed into a wall. I think
Yeah.
that's what happened, and then
Speaking of crashing into walls, when I saw Mitch Haniger crash into the wall in the Yankees series, I was like, please just be injured. Please just be injured. I never wish injuries on anyone, but I was like, you know what? Maybe you should just take like a week off or something. So
yeah, man, we used to joke about how when one of the teams in our league wouldn't have a name, we would just say, I'd make up a fake name for him. So one of them was Mitch Haniger's ruptured testicle.
perfect.
There was actually a stat at one point where like the Mariners had like the same number of ruptured testicles on their team as they had World Series appearance, or not World Series, playoff appearances.
Oh man, that's such an awesome and sad stat at the
I
same
think if
time.
they made the playoffs this year, they'll finally have more playoff appearances than ruptured testicles. But there was a time when it was the other way around, and it was very recently. And for
Oh
those who
man.
don't know, Shane is a diehard Mariners fan, so we're gonna have some more Mariners talk than usual.
You're welcome, and I'm sorry. So,
So, how did you become a fan of baseball?
honestly, I grew up playing in Little League until I went to high school. I didn't play at all in middle school either, so just grade school basically. Um, and I kind of lost track of it until I actually came to college here in Seattle. And we were so bad when I first got here that they were doing 2-for-1 bleacher seats. And so me and a couple of buddies from school, we'd just go catch games here and there and sit in the bleachers because we could split. It was 2-for-1. It was like $20 for the 2-for-1 ticket. So $10 each. We just go watch the ball game. So
Do you have any favorite players from that era?
I mean, it's hard not to like the King. So
Yeah, King Felix there.
yeah, I mean that was, and I sat in King's Court a couple of times. That was pretty epic. So
Was Etro still there when you were going to games?
He was, but he was kind of on the tail. I think he was gone for a while, and then he came back for the year in order to be a Mariner for his last year.
Oh yeah,
Um,
yeah.
yeah, so I think caught him that year, but I think he might have been gone the first couple of years I was here. So
I would really wish I could have gotten to see Ichiro play. He's one of my favorite baseball players in general.
yeah, even on his final year, like I mean, you see him out there warming up with the guys out there. It's like, dude, put on a jersey. You could be better than half the outfield still. So.
Do you have any favorite like retro Mariners players from like their heyday, back in like the late 90s? You like big Griffey fan, maybe a big Jay Buhner fan?
Oh yeah, it does. So it's always hard not to like Jay Buhner. I liked Edgar Martinez, honestly. I
Oh
thought he was,
yeah, yeah, I forgot. I
yeah.
totally spaced on him. He was like the original David Ortiz.
Yes, exactly. And man, that guy came up clutch so many times. Having him bat after Ken Griffey Jr. was just an exciting that was an exciting team to watch. So
I think if, and I'm just Googling this just to make sure, I'm pretty sure at one point, like David Ortiz was actually a member of the Mariners organization.
oh really? That wouldn't surprise me. We're like the farm team for a lot of other good teams in baseball. So
Yeah, he originally signed with the Mariners in 1992,
oh wow.
believe it or not. Yeah, and then I guess he got traded to the traded or signed with the Twinkies because that's kind of where he made his debut. He didn't actually
Yeah.
play with them, but he was with the Mariners system for a while.
Oh, okay.
So,
Well, good for him for getting out. So
well, the Twins let him go too.
yeah,
Um,
exactly.
so this is something I asked some other people. What are your favorite baseball movies?
Oh man, so I went to a lot of soccer camps as a kid, and I watched a lot of Sandlot, and I watched a lot of Angels in the Outfield. So I'd probably have to say Angels in the Outfield is the one I'm the most familiar with.
Really?
So
That's an interesting one there.
yeah, I know because it's not it's not necessarily that great of a movie, but that's just the one I watched the most as a kid growing up. So it has a special place in my heart nostalgically.
Do you watch other baseball movies now, like Moneyball or
Oh yeah, I mean, I loved Moneyball. I thought Moneyball was great. Uh, Bull Durham is on my list of movies to watch. I still haven't seen that one, but that's widely considered to be one of the best. So
Bull Durham is a movie I watch every year before the season starts. So it's
I got to get on
definitely
top of that. I'm late to that party. So
yeah. There's some fun baseball moments. That movie, if you don't know, is set basically in the minor leagues, so it has a different feel to it than your typical baseball movie.
oh, okay.
So, do you have any like defining baseball moments, like game things that you've seen in person or like you're watched on TV, like the seminal baseball moments to you?
Yeah, I got to see King Felix throw his first no, or he has a perfect game, right? It was either a perfect game or a no hitter. I saw one of them.
I thought he had a perfect game.
Yeah, I'm gonna make sure I'm not an idiot here. So,
I'm just
um,
the numbers here. He did throw a perfect game.
yeah, so I saw his perfect game, and that was pretty life-changing. I also got to see James Paxton no hitter, and that was pretty good as well. So those are probably the two. I'm a pitching and defense guy. It's hard not to be as a Mariner because there's not a lot of offense that comes through here lately. And watching those pitchers do what they did at that time was just crazy. So,
Yeah, and they had some
and
good
I'm a
too.
lefty too. So watching James Paxton's ones like, oh man, if I stuck with it, maybe I'd have a 10 in a million chance of doing that. So,
Yeah. Or you would have Tommy John surgery.
yeah, well, I mean, probably Tommy John plus, a 10 in a million chance doing it. So,
So, let me circle back here. Do you have you been to any major ballparks besides the Mariners one?
Yeah, so I've been to Angels Stadium, and that is it. Gonna go to the Coliseum this year, later in the year, before they change. But I basically have just started mapping out my uh, trips. I'm trying to try to go to a different ballpark every year for the next, 30 years or whatever. Maybe I'll double up on some. I was gonna go with a friend to um, New York because he had a place for us to stay for free, but
Hmm.
that kind of fell through. And I was going to try, we were going to stay for a week, and I was going to literally try to see the Yankees, the Mets, the Orioles, and the Red Sox and just try to do like 5 days of baseball, but didn't work out. So,
That would have been fun. You can kind of double up in Chicago. I went to Chicago few years ago, and I was able to do the White Sox and Cubs in the same week. So there are
oh,
some
yeah.
instances where you can do that. I'm actually going to be going to Baltimore later on this year, and I'm going to make the trip to DC to go see the Nationals as well. So there are some doubling up that you can do in certain areas.
Yeah. Dude, the Nats are playing pretty good right now, too. So,
Yeah, that's a little bit of a surprise.
yeah.
And that was the kind of almost leading into some of the other questions that I was having because I was curious about if you had some surprises of the season so far, just in terms of like what teams are doing well, what teams are not doing well, players maybe, anything you've noticed.
Yeah, I mean the Nats, we're just talking about the Nats. I think Jesse Winker had like a sacrifice fly too, that for doing nothing here in Seattle. Honestly, the biggest surprise is how, for me, is how good Mason Miller actually turned out to be. Because I almost just picked him up fantasy league wise, just because I was like, oh, they got this great guy in Oakland. The metrics look really good, some of the best in baseball. And man, watching him go out and do what he does, even though he doesn't get to do it that often, is just one of those special things to watch. So
I kind of heard last year about him, and they were throwing him out to start games. And the whole thing was that he threw amazing stuff. He just couldn't throw it for that long, and he had major innings concerns. So it
yeah,
wasn't surprising that they kind of shifted him to the bullpen, and he has been excellent there this year for the A's.
yeah. I mean, the fact
I
that he
had a
can
per
lock
I had
you
kind
up.
of I'm sorry.
Oh no, go ahead.
I was gonna say I predicted before the season started, and that the A's would have a better record than the Angels.
Yeah, and that's turning out to be a pretty good
Well,
prediction.
so
I
far
mean,
that's true. They're
better.
only they have the same number of losses right now, but the A's have two more wins.
Don't they? At one point in time, did the Astros finally pass them?
Yeah, the Astros are now 23 and 29,
No,
and
okay,
the
yeah.
A's are
Because at one
22 and
point in time,
32.
they were better than both those guys. So
Yeah, the Astros are starting to play a bit like themselves again.
yeah, that's a bummer, but they'll
Yeah,
be
they're, they're
first in the
still
division in
they're
not too
still
long. But
they're still 6 games under 500. It's going to take some time, and the Mariners
yeah,
are leading that division at 1 game above 500.
yeah. So we'll see. I know a lot of people talk about how good the Mariners are this year, but there's a lot of concerning underlying things happening on the team. But I was back to surprises. I mean, I've never seen anyone with Mason Miller's control at that velocity. Like watching him dot people up at 102, 103. Like normally, you had those guys like Chapman and Munoz has taken off a little bit of his velocity for more accuracy, but they would just throw that fast and then try to land the slider. And it looks like he can, he can throw it that fast, but also on the corners. So
That's really really impressive.
yeah,
Greg Maddux made a career off of not necessarily having any speed, but just being able to place the ball wherever the heck he wanted to.
yeah, right. So
And if you knew where it was going, you still weren't gonna do anything about it because he could just change the speeds and just place it exactly where he wants it.
Yeah, those guys are always so fun. Frustrating if it's your team batting against them, but wonderful and beautiful to watch. So
I have been surprised that the Brewers have done as well as they have this year. I thought they were going to be cellar dwellers with the way that they were getting rid of people and they didn't even have what's his face? Devin Williams. Devin Williams like it's been out all year and they're still just running away with the NL Central.
yeah, it's pretty crazy. I honestly, in playing against them, I always like to have like a pitcher spot open to kind of just like pick people throughout the week. It's like gambling without money.
Yeah.
And, for the first, month, I would be like, oh, these guys are playing the Brew Crew. I'll just, trot this guy out here. And the first time I did that was opposite of Freddie Peralta. I think Freddie Peralta threw like one hit, 8 inning baseball.
But he's
Like,
probably the one guy on that team you don't do that against.
I
Peralta's like
know,
their good
I
player.
know, I know. Big mistake. I thought it was like maybe, low scoring pitchers duel walk away with a no decision, and I was very, very wrong about that. So,
Yeah, it was I had the Reds winning that division and they're currently in last place. So I've been a little wrong so far with them, but
yeah,
it's
I
still
mean, that's surprising to me. I mean, that's a surprise to me too, that the Reds are not doing as well, are just not playing up to their potential, I think, right now. So,
that their team is so young in terms of the talent. That's kind of like the issue I thought that the Orioles would be having this year because so many of their guys with the Orioles are young as well, but they're just doing their thing. Um,
yeah,
the Orioles are like, 32 and 18. They're probably gonna make the playoffs, no problem.
yeah,
The Blue Jays, I've been surprised with how badly they've played this year.
yeah, they're kind of all over the place. So,
They're like people are talking about them as being like sellers this year. We've been hearing rumors about maybe Vlad Jr. or Bo Bichette moving on, and it's like I
yeah.
don't know if they're gonna tear apart that team or not, but they certainly have never played up to their potential. And I thought this year would be the year they would do it, but they so far have not done that.
Yeah, even Kevin Gozman has been off and on out of the gate too, and he's supposed to be like
Yeah,
the
yeah,
anchor of that
Gaussman's
run.
like really good, and all of a sudden he's just. Well, I know he was hurt at the start of the season, and maybe that kind of threw things off a bit for him. But
Yeah,
he was been one of the best pitchers in baseball the past few years.
yeah. No, I mean it's been interesting to watch that develop up there in the north. So
Now, since you have been to a lot of Mariners games, I've got to ask you, have you eaten the grasshoppers at the game?
yeah, they're good. I mean, I think they're good. I've eaten grasshoppers in Mexico before even eating them at the Mariners games.
Yeah.
And man, just chili, salt, and a little bit of lime, and you can eat some insects apparently. So,
Dare I ask if you've had do they have chocolate covered grasshoppers down in Mexico?
I mean, I have not experienced that in Mexico in the places that I went to, but I'm sure they do. So,
Do you have any regular ballpark foods that you consume when you go to games?
oh yeah, I think so. I forget the name of it, but there's this like brat stand right as you enter the stadium behind home plate. You'll walk up the big stairs and you take a right to go to there's like these three escalators that will take you straight up to the 300 level, which is normally where I sit.
Yeah.
Um, and um, on the way to the escalators, there's this hot dog stand, and I always get a brat with sauerkraut and onions and stone ground mustard. That's my go-to. I always got to have one during the game, whether it happens, at the seventh when everyone's closing, or before the game even starts. I gotta go get that hot dog one time. So
I am not a hot dog person. When I went to Wrigley Field, I tried a Wrigley dog and I was like, it was okay, but I'm like, I don't understand the appeal of hot dogs.
Yeah, I don't like the Mariners dog either with the cream cheese and everything. I know I'm supposed to like it, but I'm just
Ugh.
yeah, I don't. That's not my jam.
I'm not a
So
cream cheese guy in general. Like, ugh.
yeah, yeah, exactly. That's the face I made too. I was like, there's mustard, kraut, and onions. Those are the only acceptable toppings to a hot dog. So
I think mustard's probably the only one I would use out of that. But I've grown in my elder years to be more of just a dry rub kind of person when it comes to like spices and stuff
okay, yeah, no, I
versus
can.
like liquids and
Yeah,
icky stuff.
I do have
Oh,
a funny hot dog story though. One time
oh yeah,
I was with
let's hear
my
it.
I was with my ex, and we were at the game, and I was like, "Hey, you want a hot dog?" And she's like, "Yeah." And I didn't have time to go to the. I had already gotten, my hot dog at the beginning, and I was like, "I've never tried the like they have the value menu, so they have the foot long hot dogs for like $5." So I was like, the seventh inning stretch, and I was like, "Yeah, I'll go get us a couple." And I put too much mustard on her, so I wound up eating 2 feet of hot dog in one
Oh,
sitting.
now if you
I
learned
loved
your
every
lesson
second
there.
of it until like the last 6 inches, I think. So,
Well, I was at the Home Run Derby in Seattle a couple years ago, and or maybe last year. And they had the pizza there. They had this great box pizza. I can't remember the name of the place, but it was tremendous pizza.
oh, okay, I'll have to try that. That time I've never really had pizza at the ballpark, but I always bring my own. I can't believe they don't sell sunflower seeds in the ballpark, but I always have to bring my own sunflower seeds. That's something that I never go to the game without either. So,
I've gotten to enjoy pretzels. Pretzels is something I typically will have at a ballpark whenever I go because I'm generally trying to eat towards the healthier side of things, a little boring in that regard.
yeah. If I'm at the game, I'm just like, it doesn't matter. Ice cream. I'll eat a fried stick of butter if that's what it comes to. So. Because I mean, I like to eat healthy as well in my regular life, but in special, I consider the ballpark, a special place. So anything goes in the ballpark.
I'm not that's not to say that I haven't like tried some of the customs. Like I went to San Francisco last year and they have amazing garlic fries at Gilroy's, I believe is the name of the venue there. And you get these garlic fries and they come in a San Francisco Giants helmet, which is really
Ah,
cool.
pretty cool. Yeah,
So every park seems to have their own little specialty items, and I'm sure you'll see more of them in your travels.
yeah. I can't wait to go to have a Philly cheesesteak um at the Phillies. So, and go to DeSandro's in Philadelphia and eat one there. So,
Yeah, I've been scared to go to Philadelphia since I'd always be nervous about wearing enemy colors
oh yeah, dude, they
in
go
a
hard in the paint for sports in that city. It's like
yeah, you
crazy.
it's like you gotta just either wear Philly stuff or just like not wear anything baseball related. I think that's probably the
Yeah,
safest way to go.
exactly, dude. Like worse than Raiders fans back in the day. So
Yeah, I mean, or just LA Dodgers and Giants fans. Ugh, you get
yeah,
beaten up.
yeah, that's scary.
So, do you have any hot takes for things you think are going to happen this year going forward?
Oh yeah, dude. Okay, so it's a 10 I mean, we talked about this earlier, but I think if the Dodgers make it past the NLDS Otani pitches, I think it's gonna happen.
Really?
Yeah. I don't have any basis for this. It's just a feeling because listening to Otani in all the years that he spent in LA, his one thing was he wanted to compete in the playoffs and he wanted to win a national championship and he wanted to play meaningful baseball and he never got to do that. And this year, I don't know if he'll be able to hold himself back from playing. So
I mean, it would take a lot of time for him to just get himself up to being able to pitch. I mean, maybe the only thing I could think of is maybe if he like tried to be a reliever or something. But I
yeah, maybe.
don't think
I mean,
there's
we
going to be
also
enough.
don't know what he's doing behind closed doors too. He could be keeping himself in shape, So
Well, I mean, I'm sure he's keeping himself in shape, but I mean, like the typical recovery time for elbow surgery is like a year
yeah.
at least.
Well, it
So
would be when did he get it?
I believe he got it in the end of September, early October, somewhere. He was very vague about the type of surgery that he got. He never actually said that he got Tommy John surgery. He just said he got elbow surgery.
Yeah.
Vague,
Which
but
is even more adds to my conspiracy that I think he shows up and I think he pitches in the NLCS if they make it that far.
well, we
Especially with how injury prone their roster is, like they're going to need someone, and depending on what they do at the trade deadline, I just think with that kind of weapon, given how vague everything's been about his surgery and the recovery time and whatnot, because what are we 6 months out from that now? It was October.
close to 6 months. Yeah, probably a little
Yeah.
more than 6 months.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a long shot, but that's why it's a hot take. So,
Well, I can tell you, I thought Otani was going to have a down year because of the elbow surgery, and so far that does not appear to be the case. His power numbers appear to be exactly what they were last year.
yeah. So maybe, there's something fishy going on with that arm of his.
Well,
So,
there's always going to be something fishy going on with Otani. Have you been hearing about how now his other buddy from the Angels, David Fletcher, has been implicated into sports wagering with the same bookie that Mizuhara was using?
yeah. And apparently, David Fletcher is his closest friend in baseball, according to a lot of sources. So it just keeps circling closer and closer. I think, I want to believe the guy is innocent. He seems like he has integrity, from the little that we get to see about him on TV and in interviews and whatnot. But I mean, maybe the next person is his mother, and then it's like his brother, and I'll just keep getting closer to him. So hopefully he stays out of it. I mean, it's good for baseball if he stays away,
Well,
stays
baseball
out of it.
certainly
Yeah.
doesn't want anything to come out of this. They want to go, Officer Bar Brady. Nothing to see here, people. Move along.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, so this one's an interesting one to see what happens out of the investigations that they do into Fletcher. So apparently they all met during a team poker game in the hotel, and it was like he was a friend of one of Fletcher's friends, is how they all got all introduced. So it's tough. The plot is thickening. So, and you're
Yes.
not hearing anything about it. So MLB is doing a great job of keeping it quiet out of mainstream media anyway.
It's
So,
going to be an interesting development for that Shohei Ohtani gambling mini series that they're going to be doing.
oh,
That David
they're
Fletcher part just got a lot bigger.
yeah, absolutely.
Do you have any more hot takes?
Oh yeah. I'm gonna cite my source. I'm gonna steal this from Jeff, but Scott Service gets fired this year in order to create a cultural change in the Mariners dugout, even though it should be Jerry Dipoto who's getting fired. But that is what it is. So
So you're saying after the season, you think?
yeah, I think after the season, especially if they don't make the playoffs this year. So he already went backwards last year. So we'll see what happens this year. But I would say he's definitely gone. I would get rid of Dipoto too. We don't even have a lefty starter, so I don't know how far he plans on making it in the playoffs by just trotting out hard throwing right-handers who are super talented. Don't get me wrong, but it is extremely rare to not at least see one lefty in the lineup, especially in the playoffs as a starting pitcher. You can't even. I mean, I guess you could spot start Gabe Spire maybe. Uh, But yeah, Jerry, what do you have against lefties, man? They're just not good enough for you? Do you not like them? I don't know. So
They're too expensive, I think, is what it is.
yeah, probably. Honestly, that sounds exactly like Jerry. So
Do you have
it's
any additional
average
hot?
minus. What's up?
Yeah, so do you have any additional hot takes?
No, I'm gonna save the additional ones for a later date. So
Yeah, because I've given Shane the invite to be the full-time co-host on the show since listening to just me talk all the time probably isn't the most entertaining thing out there. So we'll
I mean,
probably
you
be
are
seeing a
super
lot more of
knowledgeable
Shane.
though. So.
So I've got a couple of I'm running a little low on time, so I've got a couple of quick yay or nay questions for the season and circle back to one of my predictions. The A's will finish with a better record than the Angels. Yay or nay?
Yay, I'm buying all of that.
Ellie De La Cruz steals 100 bases this year. Yay or nay?
Oh, that's interesting because he wants to steal 80 is his goal. I'm gonna say nay though. That's a lot of bases in 1 year.
I'm gonna say nay as well. I don't think he's gonna keep hitting at the clip that he's hitting at to be able to get on base enough times to get there. I
Yeah,
think he's gonna.
and that's the crazy part is it's him not being able to get on base. That's what's going to keep him from getting to 100. So
Yeah, I mean, he is tremendous. Don't get me wrong. I think he's gonna probably end up somewhere in the 70 to 80 range. I don't think he's gonna keep playing as well as he's playing right now.
yeah, I think that would be. I hope I have him on my fantasy team, so I hope differently, but I realistically think you're right as well. So
Do you think we're going to see Joey Votto play this year? I don't know if you recall, he's currently with the Blue Jays in the minor league system. He's been injured.
um, hmm, I'm gonna say nay because the Blue Jays just aren't doing that well, and there's no reason to do anything with that. So
I think we're going to see him this year. I'm really, really hoping to see him this year because I have planned on going to see the Blue Jays when they come to Arizona in a couple of months, and I really want to see Joey Votto. I've kind of gotten on this retirement tour kick where I try to like to see the old guys before they go. I got to see Miguel Cabrera last year
oh, that's pretty cool.
before. Yeah, I went to opening day with the Tigers last year,
Oh,
and
sweet.
there's like and nothing against Detroit, but there is not a whole lot to do in Detroit besides going to sports games.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense. So.
And then final yay or nay, the Seattle Mariners make it to the World Series. Yay or nay?
Oh man, the fan in me says yay, but the baseball watcher in me says nay. So I'm gonna go with nay.
I think I'm not gonna back off my prediction the Mariners making the World Series because think I said at the beginning of the season that they would. That was my official prediction.
Yeah,
And I'm going to stick with that, although I'm starting to really think this is going to be the Yankees' year.
it sure looks like that right now, man. I mean,
They have pitched way better than I thought they were going to without Garrett Cole, and I whiffed on them. I literally like up until the day of the season, the day I made my predictions, I was like the Yankees are going to win, and then I literally just waffled that day and said, "Oh, the Blue Jays are going to win," and then of course I
yeah,
probably stuck with my original pick, but I think Soto's going to win the MVP this year. What do you think?
yeah. Oh man, and that I mean, what a smile too. You can just tell he's having a blast up there in New York too. So
Yeah, I knew when he got out of San Diego that he was going to be amazing because he hit like 240 in San Diego last year and like 307 everywhere else. Like,
yeah, exactly right. So.
yeah, and then of course he goes to San Diego this past weekend and he has a home run on Friday night.
He's ready to prove that he can do it now. So
What kind of contract do you think Soto's going to get?
I think you were in discussions that we had off air. I think you're right. I think he'll get his, 600 million, 40 per year for 15 or whatever. So I think that's pretty accurate. I'd be surprised if he got a lot less than that. Um,
I mean, you'd
yeah,
have to get less years really to get something less than that because he's playing like a 40 mil per year player, and
yeah.
unlike some of Scott Boris's eight class of players like this year, where like there were a lot of like warts and question marks on him, like Bellinger and Snell. Like there are no warts on Juan Soto's game. Like somebody is going to pay that man and pay him a lot of money.
Oh, absolutely. I think during the Mariners game too, he like threw someone out at home. He's not even supposed to have a good arm. It's just like, okay,
Yeah.
do it all, buddy. Do it all. I mean, good arm, for an outfielder, right? I mean, obviously he has a good arm, but
Yeah, I mean, I think he's going to have competition even with the Mets in New York because I know Cohen's going to want to back the Brinks truck up to get somebody, especially if he can steal him from the Yankees and get one
oh yeah.
on them.
Oh yeah, dude,
And
he'll be all
Hal
about that.
Hal over here is like, our salary at 300 million isn't sustainable, and it's just so funny. Hal is not his dad. Like, can
Yeah.
you imagine like what George would be saying today if he heard some of this stuff that was going on? Like,
Probably
he would have
un
already given Soto the contract for 600 million. Here, take my money.
yeah. Oh yeah, he would have signed him up already, Judge and Soto till the day we die, and we'll put a supporting cast around him to make it work. So
All right, well, that's all the time we got for today's episode. Just want to thank Shane for coming on board here, and
oh yeah, thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
we'll definitely be hearing more from you. And quite frankly, we may consider rebranding the show if this all works out into something that is a little more Shane and Diet Dr. Griffin approved names. So stay tuned for
That
that, and we'll see you guys next week. Bye bye.